Hello team and welcome back to another Line War cast. This is your map today in a 2v2 between Alex Donald Roland aka ADR in blue and Bigler in red. And on the other team, Bravo team, is Infenzia in orange and Evil Lobster in teal. This is your picking phase. You can see that Bigler and ADR are going to spawn pretty much beside each other in nearly the center of the map. Both teams tried to pick this area in the map, so it's all grayed out. Neither team can pick that as the starting location. And this is where we got. So Bigler on the left, ADR on the right. In the top right is Evil Lobster. And in the top left is Infenzia. So orange and teal are on the same team. Bravo team to the north, Alpha team to the south. An Alpha team going for a factory and barracks mix. To start this game, ADR has this town on the coast, on this little lake. And clearly both players, blue and teal, see each other pretty much immediately. And neither player is going to try to go for an aggressive push. There's no real way that teal could have got aggressive with this, given how many blue infantry are already dug in. And for ADR, I think moving into this mountain range is a little bit scary. This is blue's vision, so can't see these two Bravo team buildings yet. The two artillery pieces that are being created are these two factories. And Evil Lobster has a farm and now building a dock. And this dock might become important because there are two choke points on the map that teal might have to push through, and the dock can also help support Infenzia when Infenzia inevitably has to move south, and we'll probably have to fight both red and blue. Of course, we don't know how the game will develop, but that's one way that it could. Infenzia in the top left is building a transport boat right away, going to send these 3 infantry across the far left, an airport building helicopters, 2 towns and 3 farms being constructed for Infenzia, who's following up with a missile boat out of the dock. So Bigler will be the one that will take on Infenzia on the left-hand side. And ADR clearly going to be the one that's fielding Evil Lobster. The most evil of lobsters. And the decision for Lobster to go for entrenchment lines with artillery pieces, once these get set up, it will be quite strong. There's SAMs on the way now for Evil Lobster to deal with any anti-air, or rather deal with any air, but Alpha Team has not built an airport yet at this point. Both red and blue are mixing in some SAMs into their armies, and ADR is going to dig it in right behind the artillery and the infantry. And so in general, there'll be it's going to be a little bit of a build-up in this game. That's the top-down view. And in general, you give the edge to the players who are in the center of the map. In general being the key thing there. It's not always the case that it's the best place to be, but it usually is. ADR is going to build a dock. There's a lot of water territories in this southern little lake, and the boats, I believe, can get through here. My guess is that they would be able to. You never quite know until you try to move the boats through it, but I think there's enough room that even a cruiser could get through that. On the road map of Line War, there is a section on the website about different terrain types, shallow waters being one of them, so stealth would be removed from submarines and cruisers wouldn't be able to go over them. That's at least what I think is on the website, the description of it. Either way, interesting, all the different things that can happen in Line War. Infenzia, after building these 3 industries, is... I'm trolling, I thought this was turning into a city. It would be this town that can turn into a city since all the industry are connected to it. And Infenzia's got an interceptor. It was actually an interceptor being built. I thought it was a helicopter from a far way away. It's interceptors and strikers from Infenzia in the top left. Evil Lobster has some commandos. There's this transport boat, so potentially the commandos are going to go across this lake. Without a rocket, I don't think either player, blue or teal, is going to want to push through this choke. And so we'll see how both players adjust. Evil Lobster has the right-hand side that can be capped and then also pushing through the middle, which is starting to happen for Teal. And for ADR, there's this bottom southern part, which is connected to the right-hand side. But in general, unless Blue decides to build a transport boat and send units across, Lobster will likely have first dibs on capping the bottom right. Infenzia is fanning out and taking these two little islands that are close to the starting base and now has a barracks besides this town. This town obviously connected to this other town on the far left. Once both these ports are up, there's a trade route for Orange, and that will be a lot of economy. And good movement by Infenzia on the transport boat to keep it active, moving the infantry over once they're done capping. And ADR and Bigler will naturally go for a push to this major junction in the map. And this is important because Infenzia and Evil Lobster, if they want to link up on land, this is really the territory to do that. Otherwise, there's no real good way to fight together for Bravo team. It is one cruiser done for Evil Lobster, and now missile boats. Missile boats are really nice to have in this lake. If Blue or Red was going for airplanes, it cuts off a whole avenue of approach to get to Teal's base. And the cruisers are sort of nice because they can show up on the coast here and start shelling away at the units in these entrenchments and maybe soften it up for Teal to go for an actual push. This is first contact in the game. Infenzia is going to start backing up with these Orange infantry, seeing just how large of an army Red and Blue have at that location. The nice thing for Infenzia is this one barracks is building more infantry, so over time Orange should be able to take the left-hand side of the map, or at least be very competitive in doing so. And air coverage is huge here for Orange. Infenzia is building a factory at home, might be as kind of a hedge against Blue and Red going for a huge push. There is this mountain, or rather this forest for Orange, which is a very good defensive location in general, since Orange controls this territory that the forests are in, so Orange doesn't move as slowly through the forests. Blue and Red will have a bigger movement speed nerf while trying to go through the forest. This is a great drop from Evil Lobster right on this town. And it's 4 commandos. Commandos have pretty intense DPS. They will likely be able to destroy this town, but very good reaction speed from ADR to immediately make this attack move bubble for infantry. And if the commandos do destroy the town, the commandos will be cleaned up very quickly afterwards. ADR also using these entrenchments right here, very nice to block up this choke while Bigler pushes to the top left. And this really demonstrates the strength of the dock from Lobster here, because these two boats now immediately force all those Blue infantry out of the entrenchment. Great snipe from Lobster. ADR has 2 boats capping. A decent amount of eco development from Bigler, who puts down 2 factories on the left-hand side. This is the plan, probably these 2 factories to deal with whatever Infenzia sends on the far left. This is Alpha Team's vision. So they don't see the factory or the barracks yet, but they do see the town. And this transport boat for Infenzia is probably just checking the coast for submarine pens or something. I don't see any other reason to go this closely to the coast. And with this town snipe, you can notice in the top right that ADR's income, Alex's income in Blue, it was in the negative, now it's, at +2, which is essentially nothing. And Lobster's going to try for another drop. Fortunately for Blue, totally in position at this point. Infenzia is backed up to a defensive line in front of the dock, allowing Bigler to cap all this territory, and we go top down Certainly more territory for Alpha Team compared to Bravo Team. Evil Lobster's making good gains in the bottom right and building an airport, going for helicopters. This can open up a second front, or rather allow the helicopters to go for some raids on production. And this could turn into commando drops as well. There is that barracks close. So if the barracks starts creating commandos, we can sort of expect that the transport planes will follow in the bottom right. And Orange going all the way up to 4 factories, so Orange is going to pool up an army and then counter push against Bigler. And the beep beep is ADR running out of energy. 3 factories and a barracks for Bigler. Bigler, in general now, there's 3 factories and a barracks against 1 factory and a barracks. Red should be able to defend against this, I think. At least make it so that Orange can't just push all the way into this mountain range and forest. And it'll be a nice little boost once all these infantry in the bottom left for Bigler get up to the front lines. Lobster and ADR are going to meet in the south very soon. Lobster's still going for these pokes with infantry and commandos, which is nice to see Teal getting active with it, because as it is, Lobster's a little bit boxed in. The right-hand side's really the only open space for Teal. There's still a lot of territory, but certainly it will be very difficult for Teal to actually push through the center of the map, so the right-hand side needs to be capped. No idea how Infensi got these infantry here. I suspect that it would be, yeah, this transport boat probably dropped them off. It'd be nice if Orange could destroy this factory, but I don't think that they will. With this Sam helping out the 2 artillery pieces and the handful of infantry. And Infensi has decided to back up and build defensive lines. I like these defensive lines that are not just one big line. I don't know what's more effective, but certainly aesthetically, the choppy lines are kind of nice. So 4 infantry in the entrenchment will do a decent job to at least delay these blue units, but with 2 artillery pieces in the back, over time those infantry are in a lot of trouble. And so these 2 cruisers and missile boat are going to swing back to this side. There's this choke here, there's also this choke. In general, this is such a narrow part of land that boats can really cover it. And quick thinking from Lobster to start sending transport boats across, since there's nowhere for the units to go to the south. Big standoff in the top left. Infenzia now has these merchant ships in this port, so Orange's economy is going to grow. There's that dock in the north, so Orange can take this energy well. And then also use boats to aid in the defense of the chokes. Far left, Infensi is going to back up even more. Probably makes a lot of sense. This is going to be a very large army for Bigler. Off of 3 factories and 2 barracks, and then also some units out of these 2 factories as well will naturally go to the left-hand side and top down. Probably still in favor for Alpha Team for how many territories are capped, but Evil Lobster has done a very good job on the bottom. Is about to get into the fight with ADR. And I don't know if ADR will suspect that that much of the map has been capped by Teal. It's possible. Maybe ADR's got that pro gamer game sense. Or it will just be a huge surprise. This is Blue's vision, so I guess actually, okay, so ADR is known for a while that this has been capped. Missile boat coming in clutch, destroying one of those interceptors, and it's more more missile boats from Blue, who is also moving a bunch of SAMs down to the south. There's already 6 SAMs that are dug in right by these defensive lines, so the only thing that will be able to take out that position is going to be a rocket. Or an enormous amount of tanks. Or I suppose like an enormous amount of infantry and artillery, but It will be a very costly trade if that's what Teal decides to do. It's also in a mountain range, so entrenchments that are in mountain ranges have defensive bonuses, I believe. So it'll be even more difficult for Teal to push through. So far, no one has built a rocket in this game. Love this landing from ADR. It's going to be very difficult for Lobster to defend against this because it's 3 transport boats that are going to be able to move all these blue units over very quickly. Once the SAMs get here, the helicopters will be pretty much useless. And on the far left, Infenzia is sort of doubling down in this position, building 2 more factories and a barracks, or rather, the barracks was already here, but 2 more factories. It makes a lot of sense. This trade route for Orange is just extremely valuable. And also, losing this position for Orange means that Red gets the entire left-hand side. So I think this is a very big deal, pardon me, on the left-hand side. This is good for Bravo team, or for Alpha team rather. I'm all over the place right now. And we could check the ecos, but it's a little bit too difficult in the team game to switch through everybody. I always say that, and then like a minute later I will check the ecos anyway. And Depot for Infenzia, who is relatively well dug in by this point. Some of the artillery pieces at the front aren't quite deployed. So Bigler is going to punch through this center entrenchment. And it's a sort of an awkward situation for Orange because these defensive lines aren't full yet. And so the units might start derping around and trying to go over here and then over here sort of deal. And I think that's what we're seeing. These little quick white lines show you the commands that units are responding to. And certainly when it comes down to numbers, Red has enough to do it. And I think this is a lot of trouble. The nice thing for Infenzia is there are 2 strikers which are good. There's a full dot of SAMs, unfortunately, for Orange. And so Infenzia is going to use these 2 transport boats to move all this artillery across. And my bold prediction is that Infenzia holds this. Even with the reinforcements. It will be very ugly. But I believe. Certainly Lobster was never going to be able to hold this. This was too difficult. And this the supply chain, so to speak, or whatever, like the amount of time it takes Teal to get units down to the bottom right is just too long. Artillery against cruisers, because the artillery are dug into entrenchments, the blue artillery do pretty well here. Cruisers are really the only boat that can go toe-to-toe against artillery that's on land, but preferably for the boats, they're not entrenched artillery. Because with the entrenchments, they get the increased range, attack range. And they have more defensive power, obviously. I don't think they get an attack buff by being in the entrenchment. Maybe it's something slight. Sue me, I don't know everything. Interceptors and strikers now being sent. And I think this is the play of the game so far for Orange with these transport boats. Still no rocket from any of the players that I can see. There's a submarine pen for Bigler, which is really nice. There's actually 2 submarine pens for Bigler, holy cow, so this is going to be a lot of subs for Red pretty quick. We'll see if Red's able to turn that into a denied trade route, because the subs can destroy the merchant ships, which take away the income from the player with the trade route. And then also if Bigler can snipe that refinery for Infenzia. Both of which are definitely feasible. There's only 2 docks, the second dock now complete for Infenzia. Which as soon as Orange sees that these are subs, we're probably going to see destroyer production out of both the docks. This is going sort of okay-ish for Orange. Unfortunately for these artillery pieces, the second they land, they're going to be attacked. There's a cruiser close to the shore, though. So the closer that Red gets to the shoreline and the more they have to fight this cruiser, the better it is for Infenzia and top down. That's the situation. So Lobster gets into a defensive position because there's really no choice. Unfortunately for Lobster, all of this territory in the bottom right is going to get capped in favor of Alpha Team. And let's do it. Let's do the math on the incomes for the players. ADR's at 620, Red's at 1035, and Fenzia's at 889. And Lobster's at 916. So my rough math is that that's kind of close, right? But it will change a little bit because ADR is capping all of that bottom right territory. Reinforcement wise, it's a little bit thin for Bigler, but I wouldn't say yet that Bigler is losing this fight. And what's important is that elsewhere on the map, what's going on is that it's Bigler's turn to defend, is what I'm trying to say. And Orange is going to launch a concentrated attack into this defensive line. Good amount of SAMs that are dug in. Good amount of units. The cruisers have been able to soften up the edges. And I don't know if it ever makes sense for Orange to just run infantry behind the defensive lines. I'm not actually sure what would be more effective in it. But sometimes we see players do that. And it's a commando and 2 infantry heading towards ADR's refinery, which would be nice. It would stop all the boats from moving. It's a lot of infantry, or a lot of artillery, clearly, for Orange. So the infantry in the front are really just soaking damage and buying time. There's no reinforcements in this position for Red, though. So if Infenzia can get through it, there's just a straight shot to push into the center of the map. 3 helicopters for Lobster, which will be super effective. There's only 1 SAM here. And the helicopters, 3 helicopters, can certainly take on 1 SAM. And potentially it was a little bit too optimistic about how this was going to go for Infenzia. The submarines for Bigler, well, they answer the question of whether the subs can deny the trade route. And the answer is absolutely they can. Interceptors have great vision, so the subs are certainly spotted. But Infenzia, this is Infenzia's vision. Bravo Team's vision doesn't see where the submarine pens are. And it's a good concave from Bigler. Maybe with his added reinforcements, yeah, Bigler's going to be able to destroy this. This airport is going to make double sure of that. Because over time, this is going to be a pretty substantial air force from Bigler. Infenzia gets through the defensive line. It is a ton of artillery pieces, so they're very slow, but slowly but surely, Orange will start to cap this territory. And on the right-hand side, there's a big standoff. Evil Lobster has built a rocket without me noticing and building more eco. And the rocket could go either to the center here or to the south. It will probably be able to reach these units for blue. I suspect that the more attractive target is right here in the center of the map. Nice infantry. Bigler takes out that refinery from Infenzia. Luckily, Orange still has a depot with his refinery connected to it. So enough energy in the tank for Orange to keep moving all the boats in the plains. And it's just a very awkward position for these Orange artilleries now because they're kind of stuck behind this barracks. And as soon as they try to move in range, they just get taken out by these artillery pieces. And there's still 5 SAMs for Bigler, which is enough to deal with any planes, even if these were all strikers. If they were all strikers for Infenzia, then no, with 2 reinforcing SAMs, it's actually a very difficult position to break out of. And I better keep an eye on this rocket because I will certainly miss it. top down. Blue territory is Alpha Team. It's teal territory, pardon me, is Bravo Team. And also to launch a rocket you need 40 energy, so I wonder if Lobster's just waiting for 40 energy. So Infensio does officially lose in the top left of the map. As mentioned before, it was going to be a tough hold because of just the production deficit that Orange was running on. Bigler had a lot of factories and barracks pushing. And here comes the rocket. It's got to be center. And it's going to be center. So this defensive line for Lobster is going to open up, and we'll probably see a push from Teal to the center of the map. Unless the SAMs get it, but I don't think that they will. They're able to shoot long enough. And Lobster doesn't have enough money to rebuild a rocket. It's kind of tough. I guess it didn't destroy any of the producers, so if Teal started pushing through the center, it's still a difficult fight to take. Bottom right is definitely a stalemate, but ADR is building eco on it, which is good, and now Bigler feels very confident that this town is in no risk of being destroyed, which it's certainly not. And great play. So Infensio's got a lot of artillery. There's no SAMs with this, but there's no airports for Alpha Team that are close. Bigler's going for a city at this point. And ADR is adding a factory and a barracks to the south just in case this push goes poorly, and mostly just to replenish this defensive line. Over time, this amount of artillery pieces against infantry that are dug in, the artillery pieces will be able to push through. And as mentioned, defender's advantage for blue just allows ADR to fill up these entrenchments again. And Lobster isn't able to push. Nice raid from the helicopters from Lobster. And top down. A lot more of the map for Alpha Team. At this point, I would say it will be a very notable comeback if Bravo Team can do this. Because we can check the ecos. Well, we better start from the top or else my math will go wrong. 933 for blue. 1132 for red. So like a 2,000 income, 700 income for orange, and 973 for teal. So Bravo Team definitely had a deficit. Infensio is still trying to land at this location, knowing just how important it is that red isn't able to just develop all this with all these territories, or the different farms rather. This is a city location as well. And red having one city is enough of a problem for Bravo Team. Red having two cities is extremely problematic. Still like these drops from Lobster, making it work with the helicopters. Handful of artillery pieces for Lobster, and the bulk of Infensio's artillery pieces are converging in the center. It's a good push. It's a lot of units for orange and teal. And there's really no planes, as mentioned, for Alpha Team. So there's no real reason that teal or orange would need to have SAMs in the location. It's going to be a very strong push. It just depends whether orange and teal can kind of get to the center of the map in this mountain range and then reinforce all these units. Bigler is now building an airport. A handful of helicopters would do phenomenal against that artillery blob. And that might be Red's plan. Nice move from Infensio to actually get back on the landmass. I'll be very surprised if Orange can do it. Yeah, there's no missile boats, so these helicopters from Bigler are going to be super, super good. Cruisers have just as good damage against air units when they use their missiles, or rather their machine guns, But the problem is the range is not all that great. So the helicopters, as long as they're inland a little bit, they're not going to get attacked by the cruisers. Bigler rushes in a bunch of army to meet the artillery pieces to at least buy time. And great drop from Lobster, who's been absolutely relentless. Lobster pushing in the bottom right. This is super nice for Teal. Teal's certainly going to be able to destroy all of this. And then there's a good attempt from the transport boats to start moving across a bunch of red artillery that unfortunately land in a very difficult spot to get anything done. Good move from the commandos. The pressure in the center of the map is starting to thin out. This is certainly a hold. I feel like I say the word certainly a lot. Probably do. Gotta start a certainly counter on the replays. There's one missile boat here. My mistake. But it takes a while for it to do anything. You can just see how effective the helicopters are. They thin out this artillery count immediately. And now Bigler will be able to reinforce. Bigler has a absurd amount of submarines in the top left. They're very heavy on energy and also multitask. There's a bunch of things going on this game, clearly. It's a pretty hectic game. And another rocket for Lobster, who adds more eco at the same time that ADR adds more eco with all these ports going down. Yeah, helicopters versus missile boats, entirely different deal. 3 missile boats against this many helicopters. The helicopters will win this fight. But I think there will only be 1 helicopter left, maybe 2. This one helicopter, once planes get to a low enough health, they will return to base automatically. I don't know what happened there. This one helicopter just like Tokyo drift around that missile boat, and then they killed each other at the exact same second. Wild. The line war equivalent of interpretive dance. This is great for Fenzia. I don't think that this town will go down. There's more missile boats that have been reinforced. Orange is making 2 at a time. So with the help of the missile boats, these artillery pieces will chew up all this infantry that Red is sending over. And 4 cruisers for Fenzia will make it so Red, it's going to take a while for Red to be able to push through this choke. More drops from Lobster, trying to find weak spots behind enemy lines. And the SAMs with their range bonus when they're in those entrenchments are very scary. This is great for Evil Lobster capping all this territory back. But still, Bravo team definitely have the disadvantage when it comes to total economy. The submarines for Bigler have made their play. They're just heading right towards the docks and a target command from the submarines. These are certainly I'm not going to say certainly anymore. That's my one goal. Both the docks are going to go down, is what I'm going to say. That's my guess. If Bigler keeps like target commanding this dock, even if all the subs die, the dock will be destroyed. If the subs elect to fight against this many cruisers and missile boats, I don't think that the subs will win this fight. Especially with the interceptors and the strikers showing up as well. But big picture, it doesn't even really matter if Bigler loses these submarines as long as, importantly, the landmass is secured. It's also so annoying too as Bravo team, because you have to go find the submarine pens, which have that stealth characteristic to them. And then of course if you move your navy out to go try to find the sub pens, then the submarines can just sidestep your navy and start destroying important stuff at home. The second rocket for Lobster is nearly done. It's just the cone that needs to be put on this thing. And then a lot of artillery pieces for Lobster. We'll see what the plan is If the rocket goes over this many SAMs in entrenched lines, the SAMs will probably be able to shoot the rocket down. And haste moved planes with those afterburners on to try to get to the center of the map. It's a good number of interceptors for Orange that are going to show up here, so against this many helicopters, the interceptors will do very well. And the haste move here was in response, I think, to how close Red was coming to actually pushing through the defensive line. The Navy's here as well. It's an important part of the map to actually defend. And here comes the second rocket of the game from Lobster, who has a city on the way. It's right on top of SAMs. Pretty good. Pretty good. Let's see if Teal pushes. I almost suspect that Teal won't. Because much like the first rocket, it would just be the exact same outcome. Sweet move from ADR to group up the army in this forest. There's enough artillery pieces that the stealth of the forest, it's the artillery pieces can detect all those units. But Blue's grouping up that army to take that fight against the huge artillery blob in the south. Infensia's boats are finally out of energy. And this is how stealth submarine pens are, that there's this many boats and the missile boat this close to the coast, but Bravo team can't actually see this. And there you go, now that these cruisers get a little bit closer, they finally see it. And now Infensia takes out one of the submarine pens. This other submarine pen for Bigler is still producing submarines. More helicopters from Red on the left-hand side. And Infensia does have a city, which is nice. Huge play from the helicopters from Bigler to attack the cruisers before the cruisers can actually destroy the submarine pen. I know people have told me that the machine gun for the cruiser does as much damage as the machine gun for the missile boat. It just feels like it doesn't. I don't know why. But I know that's not how it works. Like, the stats are the same. I like this push from Lobster. I think now is the time to do it. And this is what Teal's doing. In the south, sort of missed it, my bad. This blue army is actually able to destroy most of this artillery piece. This artillery army for Teal, I'm sort of surprised. But Evil Lobster still has more of an army in the south that's growing. Another big artillery blob from Infensia, and no rocket for Alpha Team. And the only reason I bring up rockets is because rockets are very good at dealing with blobs of artillery. Just blobs of anything, really. It's one of the ways you can fight it. The other way is to just build up an air force, and Bigler's doing exactly that. These are our two main fights right now. The one in the south is, yeah, just a stalemate. But good thing for Bravo team, capping the bottom right, taking all that eco away, and actually making it like relatively close on total territories. I think Evil Lobster's getting it done on the right hand side, and so far Infensia's push is also very strong. Let's see the total incomes. 791 for blue, 1196 for red, 831 for orange, and 1360 for teal. So Lobster really just like making a ton of money. This is a city, I believe. This is a city location already that's being created. Yeah, this is a 2-industry city. So if you want to upgrade a city, like a town spot into a city, you have to have all the industries that are connected to it by these little roads. You have to build them first. Infensia has one single SAM here. There's probably more SAMs on the way. This close factory is making SAMs. In fact, both of these factories are making SAMs. And nice job from Bigler to jump into defense with ADR. Who's now dealing with the exact same problem we saw Infenzia deal with a little bit with, which is the defensive lines. The units get a little bit derpy when trying to get into entrenchments, especially if they're under fire. And 4 commandos for Evil Lobster. As long as the planes are full, they're gonna land, and the commandos are gonna head right towards this town. Bigler has a launch pad at this point, but there's no rocket being constructed yet. And Bravo Team probably can see this, yeah. With all these commandos and then some of this artillery blob. Even though I think this is in the mountains, this launch pad. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just on the flat ground, but either way. What a fight. I want to check the left-hand side, but I assume, yeah, this is just a sort of a stalemate. Bigler built a city over here. Nice snipe from the submarine on Infenzia's port. And this is where the majority of your action is. Commandos in the bottom left, my bet. They're going to destroy this town. For sure. Pause the video, say yes or no in the comments. Just yes all caps or no all caps if you think they're going to be able to do it. There you go. They did it. And so far, this push from teal and orange in the center is going quite well. This push is sort of starting to thin out, but the huge but of this is that there's another rocket. And I think with that, with how much army is left here for teal, Lobster can just push. There's no more SAMs, rather there's only 2 SAMs, but there's enough strikers and now this cruiser as well that can definitely just fight that straight up. Lobster has a second launch pad in the bottom right that could either attack ADR's main base or that southern entrenchment line. And in the bottom right, both the SAMs get cleared up. And now it's a super tough position for ADR because there's... Blue wants to build as many artillery pieces as possible to defend against this army, but now also needing to replenish the SAMs. Kind of an impossible situation for Blue, who puts down 3 more factories in the center of the map, which is very good. It'll be able to help against the push in the center and then also on the right-hand side. But all of this production is in a huge amount of trouble. ADR knows that, but thus is the way of line war. And now top down, Alpha Team still I think has more territory. But both of these pushes are going super well for Bravo Team. I don't know what happened this game. I said earlier that this was going to be a surprising comeback for Bravo Team, so I either misread it, or this was a very impressive comeback from Bravo Team, or it's a little bit of both. Which I feel like you know, it's probably usually the case. Yeah, Blue's gonna get cleaned up here. The rocket will just be able to be used in the south. And now a good convergence of forces between orange and teal. A good amount of SAM coverage, so any helicopters here, and there are a lot of helicopters from Bigler, which is a really nice play from red. And without all of these SAMs, the red helicopters would be able to stop this, or at least slow it down heavily, but with this many SAMs, it becomes impossible for the helicopters to do much. And we can just see Evil Lobster's economy. Bigler's destroying this sub-pen. Red definitely has enough. I mean, Red sees that naval supremacy is theirs on the right-hand side, or on the left-hand side. And a dock for Bigler. The dock would be nice to be able to destroy this city, or at least put more pressure on it, and then attack all of the coastal buildings from orange. And rocket for Bigler is 2/3 of the way done. The launch pad will survive, which is really nice. Red also has these 3 SAMs in the mountains, which is good for any commando drops that could happen right on top of the launch pad. And Red is going to rotate the helicopters probably down to this location, because the SAMs for Lobster are a little bit further behind. Helicopters can do a lot of damage there. Rocket on the way for Lobster in the bottom right, and then also on the main base. So Teal is making 2 rockets at a time. And I mean, I think that's really like the situation of the game. If red and blue can hold on the right-hand side, this is a perfect time for these SAMs to move up, by the way, from Lobster. That's that gamer sense. Red and blue would have to hold on to this position, also start pushing heavily through the center, and be able to have a solution for what's going on in the bottom part of the map, which I think is a very difficult thing to do with the launch pad that Lobster's built in the bottom right. There's that full dot of SAMs shredding through the helicopters, and with that, no real way for blue to hold on here much longer. And now Lobster doing what ADR did, but just in reverse. Landing in the south against a very vulnerable town and port. Good reaction from Bigler to send a helicopter down. And these are actually transport boats, so the intent is a landing from Bigler. That makes a lot of sense. There's a decent amount of defensive stuff at home for Infensius. Some of these entrenchments are already set up, which is nice. And the rocket for Bigler is complete. It's sort of tough because I don't think there's any location that is super attractive to use this rocket. In the center, it will get some units, but not all that much, and won't destroy any producers. No real way I think that Red would try to hit the Navy at this point. And on the far right, same thing, like all the units are pretty spread out. And rockets are expensive, so you want to get a good trade for them. Lobster also has a rocket now complete. And this town and port for ADR are in an enormous amount of trouble. Rocket is to the center. Destroys most of the SAMs. So this buys a little bit of time for red and blue. But it's strikers and more strikers from Lobster, who still has this rocket almost ready. And once this rocket launches and lands here, Teal is just going to be able to push throughout the south. Super cool game. With all 4 players kind of spawning pretty far away from each other. Infensi just has these interceptors and strikers on constant patrol in front of the port. And the landing is on for Bigler. This is Bravo Team's vision, so Infensi can see this. And part of the thing is, even if red and blue get to this position, by this point there's so many cruisers for Lobster. And pushing through these chokes is super difficult, as we've seen this entire game. Two cruisers can just tank this helicopter if they decide to attack the town, which is exactly what they're going to do. My guess is that the cruisers do destroy that town. We'll see if that's the case, though. And there are some SAMs for red. There's a decent amount of transport boats, so this will be a very strong landing. And the defensive lines I talked about before, I guess they're actually not as fleshed out. This one's not even that full. Good amount of SAMs to try to defend against these helicopters. A helicopter swarm this big does have pretty good DPS. But is it just sit under 3 SAMs good enough DPS? And it's close, but no. I think if the SAMs weren't there, sir, like, for sure, the helicopters would have been able to destroy that. And I was wrong. The cruisers weren't able to destroy that town. Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. This rocket clearly launched. Since there's a rocket on the stand and Lobster is now pushing through that point on the map where all the units just evaporated. And that's a big deal. That definitely cuts back on ADR's economy. ADR's economy, like, for blue here, has to be in a lot of trouble at this point. This is a decent amount of territory that Teal's going to be able to get back. And I think a lot of it kind of rests on whether this push could go well, but Defender's advantage is just 5 factories from Infenzia. And even though the depot's gone, it doesn't super matter. In the ultimate push and pull of line war, it's now Bravo team's turn to push through the center. Evil Lobster has a big enough army that even without this second front, this is very difficult to stop for Alpha Team. And top down. Sort of a split map at this point. I'm excited to see the graphs for this game. I think the graphs here are going to be pretty interesting. Looking at the graphs, I think the eco is going to go back and forth for both teams. Either way, well played from all 4. Very interesting game. But I think as... Yeah, there you go. ADR's out, Bigler taps, GG, well played all. And thanks for watching the video. Thanks for subbing, thanks for liking the video, thanks for commenting, just watching in general. It all helps the channel grow. And yeah, it did a little bit. Well played both. Well played all. AI hype for Line War, folks, it's coming soon. We don't know when exactly, but it's going to happen soon. By the time this video is out, it might already be out. Or I might be lying to you. It might not be out for months. We don't know. It's gonna happen though. It's very exciting. Shout out to all the folks who are online. We're playing daily. If you want to look for matches, you can just log in and look for matches in the lobby browser. But as well, check out the Line War Discord in the Looking for Match channel. You can find games, as mentioned. A lot of folks playing every day. Team games, 1v1s. Very friendly folks. And, you know, long live Line War. Hope you all have a wonderful night, day, evening, whatever it is. See you around. And, oh, also shouts out to Infenzia for posting this in the match replays channel in the Discord. If you want to go watch replays, it's a great place to be. Anyway, enjoy, folks. Thanks for the support. Peace.